Good day to you, fellow Chivalry players. I'm Eric, or some of you may know me as Kira Yamato. If you're watching this video, it means that you yourself have downloaded the Tenosian update and wish to learn how to properly ride and operate these mighty beasts. Horses in the medieval time period are used as shock troops. The muscle and a horse's thunderous hoof beats bring devastating havoc on your enemy's morale, making them, in your chat, call you a coward or a pussy. So, I'll do my best to make sure I give you enough knowledge in terms of maneuvers, weapon plus movement damage mechanics, and some personal tips on how to make the best of your horse run during your match. So let's get right to it. I'm sure that many of you are more accustomed to Mount Blade and Mortel's horse movement, but just know that Chivalry's horses are a whole new story. So let's start with basic controls on horseback. I would say that there are 3 movement states on being on horseback in Chivalry 2. There's a stationary walking / trotting state, light gallop, and then the full gallop. When you first move on a horse, you're in a walking / trotting state. In this state, you can of course move forward to get yourself going, backwards to displace yourself from an undesirable obstacle, and of course the side trot. When you move forward, the horse will move towards the center of your camera view, so wherever you're looking, the horse will automatically reorient its face to center itself to your camera, so please keep a note of that. To get yourself out of a trotting or light gallop state, simply push forward and tap the shift key or the sprint key to get your horse moving into a full gallop. When you're out of medkits for self-healing, make sure your horse comes to a complete stop by pushing and holding the move backwards key until the horse comes to a complete stop, and push your interact key to mount off. Aside from doing your normal input attacks, you can do a front kick by jabbing, or a backwards kick by pushing the kick button. At full gallop, it's very important to keep yourself in a constant state of motion, since when you're out galloping at that speed, your horse becomes a wrecking ball, knocking over enemies into the ground with force. But obviously the map layout will hinder you from doing so, so it's really important to know when to tap your brakes, to make those sharp turns, or to avoid hitting an obstacle that could potentially bring you to a complete halt. Like driving vehicles in real life, the slower you are, the easier it is to turn. The faster you are, your vehicle will experience a slow turn, or understeering. To make a sharp turn, simply tap your brake before a turn, reorient your camera into the desired direction, and quickly press forward again. You want to avoid understeering at all costs if you're in a narrow area, but if you're in an open field, well, you can turn however you want, honestly. If you're caught at a trotting / slow gallop, you'll be interrupted just how you are on the ground. The interruption will negate any input for a short period of time. It also means with movement, and you'll find yourself stuck in a state if you're not going at full speed, making it lead to your death. When you're surrounded at a standstill, enemies will pretty much act as a blockade, leaving you no room to escape, which is why it is very important to keep yourself moving. If you're ever caught on an obstacle at a fast speed, first off, stop holding that forward key. Either move back or reorient your camera in the opposite direction to get yourself out of that standstill situation. Sometimes, Chivalry 2's, or more like Unreal Engine's collision interaction can be quite clunky, and there will be moments where you find yourself unable to move, no matter what you do. To combat this, I usually just spam any of the horse kick buttons until the horse just nudges itself out of the collision trap. So hopefully this helps too when you're in that situation. Hopefully by now, you're more familiar with basic maneuvers in horseback. Familiar enough to even make Ned Stark say, "You ride well."
Solaris rides well.
So I'll start giving some tips on outplaying an enemy mounted knight that's chasing you, and other instances for you to use your horse kicks. If it's an enemy mounted or on the ground, the best time to attack at full speed is to strike an enemy when they're not paying attention to you. When there's a mounted knight chasing you at your 6, it'll be inevitable for them to get an angle on you to land a strike. In this clip here, the horseman behind me is slowly getting the striking angle during this wide turn. To counter this, I did a quick brake and steered myself to the left, staying clear and away from the enemy behind me. You can either reinitiate your counterattack by getting that angle on them, or you can just disengage and continue on with your horse run. And honestly, that's pretty much it for horse-to-horse combat. It's always about timing, and whoever times it well will land the strike. When you want to use kicks, you have to be aware that the hitbox is still a bit funky for front ones especially, as of me making this video on June 18 of 2022. Future patches may improve the horse kick, so if it has, anytime you're watching this video, you may discard this section of the video in future patches. Currently the hitbox of the front kick is like this. If the enemy is too close to you and you press the jab key to do a front kick, the kick won't register on enemy, and you're pretty much giving the enemy free hits instead of backshotting away. So you want to keep the enemy inside that little box I drew right here, or just a bit outside of it, and you're for sure going to land the front kick. Back kicks are very situational, but I found that the best way to use it is after you turn yourself away from an enemy you're running at. When you angle the horse's back to the enemy, it's going to be an obvious reaction to a player on the ground to run forward towards the horse, thus making you land the kick just like how I landed this one on Meow Knight. I'm so sorry, Meow. I love you, dude. With kicks out of the way, I will now teach you how to properly use a lance.
But Kira, lances are easy. Just tap the attack key, point forward, and run into the enemy.
While that may be true, there is a way to increase the damage done with your lance. To do this, you of course tap the attack key to point it forward, but instead of just ramming it into your enemy, you can tap the attack input again to make yourself do a lance thrust. When you combine Chivalry's momentum damage modifier with a lance thrust, you'll of course receive a more satisfying sound, but more importantly, more damages, and potentially an insta-kill. You want to make use of your lance because every successful hit will lose a durability usage, since the lances in Chivalry 2 only contain 3 successful hits until it loses its durability and breaks, making you bring out your main weapon. The use of a lance thrust is more notable when you and another mountain knight are charging at each other dead on with lances forward. When you time it correctly, you'll be the one with the initiative and land a successful lance strike. If you don't, you'll both collide and strike each other at the same time, making both of your horses go into a panic state. With the proper use of lances out of the way, I'll show you how to make the best of your current horse run, and of course the best weapons to use when you don't have a lance. Once again, maintaining momentum is important. So in order to maintain it, it's best to create a mental circuit in a section of a map where you can go in circles, in and out. Because when you do that, you'll find yourself racking up kills in that single life before the health of you or the horse will reach 0. The best weapons to use in my opinion is honestly the two-handed spear, and of course a halberd. I've tried other weapons like the greatsword, one-handed spear, and sidearms, falchion or arming sword. By the end of the day, the weapon with the longer reach is always the best to use, because with those other short-range weapons, I find myself like falling short or missing an attack. In conclusion, the information provided in my video isn't the must-do when you ride horses. I'm just here to provide some tips to extend the duration of your time on this beast. You can ride the horse any way you want, as long as you're having fun. For all the information I went over in this video, I hope you yourself can queue up into a horse match with positivity to ride properly and hit the cradle. Thank you for taking your time to watch this video. I'll go out there and ride with fury. Just avoid the lads on the ground with two-handed spears. They're there to make sure you don't have a good time. I'm probably going to upload more gameplay videos and other shenanigans on this channel, but in my description below, you can follow me on my non-consistent Twitch channel, Chivalry, and on my Twitter for updates on my development on a personal game project of mine. So have a good rest of the day, you guys. Take it easy.